Hi everyone, my name is Assemblymember Evan Lowe here during the series of our tech interviews with a number of leaders in Silicon Valley and abroad. As you know, we have the Tech Caucus in the California State Legislature, and I'm honored to be joined by KR, a dear friend and CEO of Bloom Energy. Thank you so very much, KR, for joining us today.
Evan, it's a great pleasure. You are such a champion for tech in Sacramento, and we really appreciate your service. We don't say thank you often enough. Thank you for everything you do.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here in your office, and as you can see in our great background, you've been very active not only in Silicon Valley but abroad, and it's a demonstration of the work that you've done, so I appreciate the time to have a conversation with you. I know a number of our viewers would be interested to learn about, well, what does it mean to be a CEO of a Silicon Valley company? What are the challenges that lie ahead? So maybe just to begin on some of these issues to discuss, what do you think keeps you up at night as a CEO of a major company here in Silicon Valley?
Look, I think we are at a very important inflection point in tech. If we don't go and show people why we are important for society, we are not just about wealth creation, we are about job creation. Because the fear of tech coming in and taking away everyday jobs is what the middle of the country is really worried about. And you see that in so many manifestations. And you see the income divide coming if it's just wealth creation. So I feel very strongly that the middle class is like the backbone, the spine of the country. Just like the spine for the body is so important, the middle class is really that. And we need well-paying manufacturing jobs in addition to coding jobs, which are very, very important. And that has to be spread across the country. And I'm particularly proud at Bloom, we have manufacturing jobs. It's a very important profession. And as some of the old world manufacturing jobs have moved away, we need to continue to innovate and create new world manufacturing jobs for people like that. And we feel like we are making our contribution there. So I feel very good about that role that we play in the society.
Sure. I think many jurisdictions, states would roll out the red carpet to have a company like Bloom Energy in their vicinity. There has been expansions of late with Bloom in Silicon Valley. But one of the things that I think is part of the challenge is also attracting that type of talent that you were talking about here in the cost of living challenges ahead. Is that something that you're also facing, and sort of what is the role that you see that you might be able to play in helping to address some of these issues?
Look, affordable housing, that's key to everything for Silicon Valley to grow in the future if we want those jobs that we just talked about. Many of our employees today who work in our assembly line have extremely long commute times, and that's time away from family. That's a lot of gas that they burn going back and forth. Not only are they spending the money on the gas, it's not good for the environment. We don't have rapid transport, we don't have mass transit, we don't have affordable housing. We need to fix these things. That's important as a society for us to think about. And something I've been challenging my team is, as San Jose and other areas like that are thinking about affordable housing, once you give somebody a shelter, the second biggest variable cost is energy, because it fluctuates and the electricity bill every day outside of food. So I've been asking, is there a way for us to think about providing for those affordable housing, working in partnership between public and private? Can we be a solution where we can not only provide clean power, but affordable power at a very predictable cost, and play our small role in what we do to facilitate something very big for the society. So we always think about how can we be a good neighbor in the community, because we are part of the neighborhood. We don't view ourselves as somebody sitting isolated. We want to be integrated to the society.
Sure. I think that's what I've always appreciated about you and your advocacy. You've talked about things that are not just fundamentally about the bottom line, but engaging with the government and talking about the importance of the infrastructure that's built with respect to energy, transportation, housing. These are all things that we need to care about, and I'm hopeful to continue to see that Bloom can help lead by example with many of the Silicon Valley companies, and having executives also articulate the importance of some of these things that make Silicon Valley what it is.
Yeah, and to my CEO friends, I would say it's actually good for the bottom line.
Right.
You know, when you do that, you need to do that because you're part of the society. But actually, if you look at the impact of that, if you make a neighborhood livable for the entire spectrum of the population, that's going to give you a diverse workforce. And that diverse workforce is vital to the well-being of your company. So it's actually helping your bottom line. You may not see it on a quarterly basis, but you will see it over the long term. So if you take a slightly longer term view, you are going to see benefit even in your own company by doing what you do.
Right, right. That's wonderful to hear. Now, you also, when we take a look at the existence of the company itself and the direction of the leadership, you are surrounding yourself with great leaders on the board of directors that include John Doerr and General Colin Powell, former United States Senator Kelly Ayotte, and also John Chambers. You're also part of that ecosystem. What's it like to be in a room with all of these bright minds who have international experience and trying to tackle the challenges that you have for the company?
You know, they have phenomenal name recognition, but they're not trophies on the board. Okay, they're not trophies on the board. Each one of them play a unique and distinct role in helping this company think about what we need to do in a certain area. John Chambers has been described as Jeff Immelt, as if there's a last sale to make and I need the best sales CEO, it's John Chambers. All right, so as we grow, and John took Silicon Valley technology networking and figured out how to globalize that across the world. We want our technology to be globalized, not only for us to grow, but also to make an impact, which has always been important to the mission of the company. We want affordable, clean power for everybody on the planet. It's a long-term mission. It's not going to happen overnight, but that's what we're marching towards, right? So he can help with that. General Colin Powell, he ran the world's largest human resources organization. The number of people in the US military is greater than any corporation that you can think of. So, and culturally, values, one of the best run organizations in the world. So if I can take a page and learn from his amazing wealth of knowledge in that field, we are a better company for it.
Sure.
So each one of them play an amazing role. And John Doerr, I mean, how many fields has he disrupted what he needs to do? You know, Scott Sandell from NEA, phenomenal board director that helps, right? You know, Kelly Ayotte, she was a Republican senator, but had tremendous respect on both the Democratic side and the Republican side. Bipartisan approach to things. Cares deeply about climate. Cares deeply about new energy, and is a lawyer and an attorney general who understands regulation. We are in a regulatory field. Having somebody like that who can advise. So each one of them play a very important role in shaping the company. It's not just the name recognition alone. I'm grateful for that, but it is what they play, in their roles in the company. I'm super fortunate to have such great advisors who can mentor me and shape me.
Sure. I think that's where you build the confidence and inspiration to see that you have a great team that have been assembled to continue on the direction for the company. And so along those lines, if you had a magic wand, where would you see the company in 5 to 10 years?
Let me not put a timeline on it. Let me say, this technology that we are developing, the Bloom box, the fundamental technology that goes with it, has something the equivalent of a Moore's law. And for those of you viewers that may not be immediately familiar with it, that comes from the chip industry that says the next 100 million chips that I build will be cheaper and better than the previous 100 million chips that I built. And that continuous march forward with every next generation is why technology has really changed all our lives, right? And so we have not exactly that law, but the equivalent of that, of reducing cost and making our product better. better from a affordability perspective, better from a clean perspective, better from better from a reliability and resiliency, and we should talk about that for a second. All that. So my vision is sometime in the future, around that 10-year time frame, let's say, this should be the most affordable way and most accessible way for somebody in a little village in Africa and a fishing village in Bangladesh to get electricity. Because after all, in a completely digital world, electricity is a human need, it's not a luxury. It is absolutely necessary for every human being. So that's the vision.
That's quite the vision. We are sitting here in Silicon Valley in the state of California. Are there some elements that the state of California is doing well that can be replicated in other places? The technology that we have here at Bloom Energy can be used and is being used all across the world. But is there something specific that we can replicate from the states policy-wise, and making sure that we have policies in place that support the type of clean technology and clean energy that we see that exists?
Working with the IOUs, working with the munis, working with the PUC, working with the Assembly and the Senate and the Governor's Office, we have been able to create in the early days an environment where we could integrate our solution with the existing infrastructure without it being a conflict. If California created that environment for us, and that is extremely important because it's a highly regulated field. In most places, as you know, it's a monopoly. And monopoly industries, it's very difficult to go and introduce something new into a technology that can on the face of it look threatening. It's actually not threatening, but in the face of it look threatening. And so California set a great example of facilitating that. We have been able to replicate that in the East Coast states now, right? So we would like to take that and get it to other countries. But let's talk about California for a second, since you brought up. Look, if you just look at the news cycles today, it's all about forest fires. And we are an earthquake country. So something that we have not focused as much on is resiliency. A centralized system has only so much resiliency. It's impossible for a grid to keep working if there's a huge forest fire. Sure. And whether we like it or not, our 4-month forest fire season is not going to be 4 months. The new normal is going to keep increasing, maybe up to 8 months a year. And we live in fire country. We live in earthquake country. How do essential services, how do schools, how do university campuses, how do big corporate campuses have resiliency in the face of a power outage? How do we make sure that water infrastructure continues to pump in the face of it? We really haven't addressed that. And Bloom brings a very important piece of that puzzle by being on-site generation. That way, everything is localized. Something happening far away is not impacting a very large part of the state. So I think we can set an example for that, on top of a potential cyber attack on the grid, which is a big fear we have. So I think we can be leaders, Evan, in showing that we can do something here and set an example for the rest of the world.
Sure. These things that you mentioned seem to be the new normal of our daily lives, whether it be the catastrophes of natural disasters or continued cyber attacks that we've had to, and utilization of the technologies that we have, basically homegrown too, within our state, is important for us to find out how to best implement. And so that engagement on public-private sector is very important. And again, amplifying some of these best practices that we've seen. I know that the state of California, we've done that, and we will try to continue to do so, but on a wide variety of various issues. Sure. Now, how about this sort of transitioning to a very exciting time about taking the company public? Was it exactly everything that you had hoped and thought it would be like?
I don't think anybody can prepare you for that day when you're on the floor and you're actually ringing the bell and opening. People had told me, they asked me to watch previous videos, but when you're there and when you're doing it on a historic floor that's operated for over 200 years, and you look at the book and you look at that archive of pictures of the who's who of American business having done it, to stand in the same floor where Edison rang a bell and opened a little company called General Electric, and to be in the same floor doing the same thing 140 years ago, later, with a listing called BE instead of GE. I don't think somebody can prepare you for that. It's a very special moment. I would encourage people to just go and watch the video of our employees who were there in large force. I wish all our employees could have been there, but the floor is not big enough to do that. And that's a good thing because we have a lot of good employees. Oh, sure. But we had a representative of them, and it was just, pardon the pun, the atmosphere was electric.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I just saw, you could see the energy of you here and a number of your board members, including John Doerr and General Colin Powell, and then of course you have all of your employees capturing the moment of the great excitement. I think this is perhaps, as you mentioned to me earlier, just a snapshot of a moment to celebrate, but the real work continues and much lies ahead.
Yes, it's a very important milestone. It's important to celebrate milestones, but it's just the beginning of a new chapter.
Sure.
And we are excited. There's a lot of work ahead, and it is a recommitment on my part and on the part of the employees to say we have a mission.
Sure.
We are a very purpose-driven, mission-driven company.
Sure.
And we are excited about what the next chapter holds for us.
Wonderful. Well, finally, KR, you are the typical Silicon Valley story of success. And many of millennials and up-and-comers who focus on Silicon Valley and tech want to follow in your footsteps in that story. And I oftentimes meet a number of executives, but none other as humble and as kind as you are. For those who also want to follow in that same Silicon Valley success of taking a company public, leading with distinction, assembling great talented individuals, and doing so with humility, what would you say is one piece of advice, just one piece of advice that you would give to someone who says, I want to follow in those footsteps and I want to be a KR someday?
Well, thank you for saying that. I think there are great examples in the Valley, and I'm just one of many. And what I would say is, don't attach the everyday happenings of what goes on in that long journey, which is honestly a roller coaster ride. There are highs and there are lows. Mm-hmm. And what I would say is, the good days are never as good as you think it is at the moment. The bad days are never as bad as you think they are. And you just have to not attach your ego and all your emotion to those ups and downs. And you as a leader need to be even keel in dealing with the ups with grace, and dealing with the low points with resolute strength. If you can do that and don't take everything personally, it's not just because of you you're succeeding. It's not because of just because of you you're in this low point. You can get over this, and the normal will come. And just be focused on the one big purpose.
Wonderful. Well said. Well, I very much appreciate the opportunity for us to have a conversation, KR. Congratulations on the success that you've had and continued success moving forward.
Thank you, Evan.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
It's such a pleasure. And again, thank you for your service. We're so honored to have you as our representative, our spokesperson for Silicon Valley, for tech. You do an amazing job in Sacramento.
Great. Well, thank you very much to everyone. You've joined us in here at Bloom Energy in the heart of Silicon Valley. Looking forward to seeing more success from Bloom Energy. Check out our website on the California Technology and Innovation Caucus and the California State Assembly. See you next time.